Otsu here. Who else would it be? This is Observations with Otsu. This is episode 75, uh, titled Election Effect, Perma-Bias, Market Doom. So, part of that is a myriad of topics that I see going on in the week. This is really just the same type of different thing. A circulation of different flavor of the week topics, flavor of the month topics. There are some special things. We got the election tomorrow here in the States, which may or may not have an effect on the market. Personally, I think it is a little egotistical to say that we would have an effect on a global crypto market as one nation, but I don't know. Anyway, that's the title of the video. The theme of this video is mostly the same as far as the analysis we're going to cover on the weekly time frames: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Sui, and Dogecoin. We'll continue with Sui and Dogecoin for now, at least maybe till the middle of November. It seems like it was well accepted, so we'll go with those five. I think that's a lot to cover as well. We'll see how that goes. In addition to that, we will talk about the election coming up tomorrow. Um, Not so much the election itself as far as the reaction. I think a lot of people are looking at the reaction. I'm not so much. I'm going to focus mainly, I will focus on the reaction, but I'm going to focus mainly on people's perception of, well, who would win, and depending on who would win, would have a more bullish or bearish effect on the crypto markets. So we'll touch on that as more of a main focus for the election standpoint. Not really going to talk about names either, just on that kind of bandwagon or anti-bandwagon effect with that, and what it means for crypto as a ecosystem. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about perma-bias. I'm not familiar with the term perma-bias, so I don't know if I made that up or what, but there's a lot of bias on both sides, particularly on bearish side as well. There's a lot of stubbornness and ignorance going on. I do want to address that. Not sure if I'll name names or not, but I really want to focus on the idea of being too far focused into that. And it does go into the theme because really the theme for this video, um, again, tends to be that flavor of the month. People are just so stubborn. They want to focus on all the things except for the one thing they need to do to trade. So we will focus on that. Got a few preliminaries coming up, very small. Then we'll get to straight onto the video. So just a quick preliminary. Really nothing special compared to last week. I mean, it is all special to me, of course, but nothing particularly new. Um, Apex Group here. I do not do sponsorships and things like that. So I have a paid, quote unquote, paid group, paid trading group. Um, and I don't really care if that looks like that's not my goal, right? My goal is I don't like sponsorships. I think sponsorships are just as can be just as bad as anything else. What I'm looking at here is this is just a way to support me while I help support you. This is the Apex Trading Group. We have a private group. That's the main aspect of the group. It's a private community where we can talk. We talk trades, charts, things like that. Trading bots is another thing. We got signals here that are very quickly being added. We also have the Apex Academy, which is a big thing that's been going on for almost 3 years now, off and on. It's been relatively successful, and then we have some algorithms as well, scripts and things like that. And so it's been going pretty good overall. I've had this as an kind of a quote unquote ecosystem for about a year now. The Academy was the first introduction of that about 3 years ago. It used to be called Nowhere Premium. I consolidated, rebranded to Apex to make it more formulaic and presentable to people because you know, it was confusing at first. So I went ahead and I'm refining the process, and what that looks like. It's right now it's only $20 a month, super super cheap, and I'm trying to keep the price as low as I can, so that way anybody can join if they want to. And I'm not charging $1,000 a month or something stupid like that. So, and that's all intentional, right? My goal is I want to be visible and transparent to you all. I understand the negative idea of paid groups, and I want to be an example that is not the case. So that is the Apex Trading Group. So that's one of the big things that you can focus on for that. And I say this as a main focus. The main benefit of this is to save you time. Okay, like I spend probably 15 to 20 hours a week doing this per week. And so a lot of this, the big proponent of this is the videos, the coins, the charts, things like that. And you can save a lot of time with that. So this is not about making money or not making money either. This is about time saving. I scan the charts every single day. And you may not have time to do that. And if you do have time to do that, maybe you want to spend other time doing something else. Okay. And so for a cup of coffee a week, you could probably save 10 hours of your week. So is that worth it to you? I'll let you be the judge, but that's the Apex Trading Group. Also have some video series coming up. One of them is charting and trading with Bitcoin. This used to just be called practical charting and trading. I'm going to still have that practical charting aspect and trading aspect, but I'm going to do it solely on Bitcoin. I want to give a lot more attention to Bitcoin because it is resilient over the years. It's deflationary, things like that. I really want to promote the idea of Bitcoin over everything else because I will have a lot of content focused on altcoins and meme coins, and so I do think that's a very saturated thing as well. I think I'll have a unique angle on that. I just started a small cap group in our private group, and I'm actually going to probably do a small cap portfolio as well. But I also want to bring more attention to Bitcoin. A lot of people seem to kind of forget it's there. And this past week is a good example. Meme coins fell that, they dropped like 15-20% sometime depending on the coin, where Bitcoin just kind of stayed. It's still up 10% in the past 30 days. So I feel like that is a good emphasis to focus on. So I'll have Bitcoin related things here. That's also going to be a way to look at charting very practically. Because now I've been trading crypto for 8 years, and so I've been trading Bitcoin for 8 years, and so I'm used to the patterns. I can help you look at that, the repetitive of this, of all of that, and you should use that to refine a system that works better for you. So that is charting and trading with Bitcoin. The next one is going to be called reviews, cryptocurrency and Web3 reviews. I'm going to focus on tokens, whether that's infrastructure, utility, or meme coins, or whatever. This is one of the very first things I ever did when I started writing publicly in the crypto sphere. I don't know if you guys remember the Dog Pound, but that I was a member of the Dog Pound at one point, and some other things. I worked for a lot of other companies too, but I did some reviews. I did some of my own. There's lots of various companies I worked for, but I want to do my own. This is my own in-house review system. Give you a rated system focusing on, what's the best token out there, what's the best utility coin, what's the best meme coin, and I really want to focus on the actual high shelf aspect of it. I designed, as you can see, I designed this on the screen to look a little more high shelf, and that's my point. Okay, like I'm not against people like Murad or I'm not a fan at all of Ansem, and I think he's less welcomed as he used to be. And I think that's a good thing because I don't think Ansem is a high quality reviewer of things. But and I'm not saying I'm the best. That's not where I'm going with that. But what I want to do is I want to focus on a hyper analysis, high shelf idea of this. Like I'm not going to say like, here's a meme coin, you got to buy this awesome, blah 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 blah. It's going to go up. And I'm not going to be this is not a hype man series. Okay, this is going to be a core high shelf thought process idea, and you can do that with memes. So anyway, look forward to that. A lot of these might come later in November, but just keep in mind with that. So anyway, those are the series. Let's just go ahead and get started into the charts. All right, so let's get started with Bitcoin. We're going to start on the weekly as we normally do. Again, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Sui, Dogecoin. We're going to spend most of our time on Bitcoin relative to the other coins because that will give us context for the rest of the market. So, and that's nothing unusual. So, going on to last week's candle, we'll start there first. So the current candle actually is a little bit down, and honestly, like I guess we'll start with the current candle. The candle's not even closed yet. I say this so many times. This is one of the reasons why the theme of this video is basically the flavor of the month because people freak out so much over a dang opening candle. Okay, the first 24 hours, people are freaking out. People are freaking out all weekend about a couple of percent moves, and like, I mean, yes, we've gone down what 6 candles now if we close here, and people are being much more dramatic than they probably should be. Like it's, I mean, it's down 7%. We're still up 10% in the past 30 days. Okay, if you look at this, from an October standpoint, like October 1st, we close here. We're still above about 11% there. We're up a little bit more. So we're about 10% because we had a bullish candle within the past 30 days. So about 10 to 11% overall. And this is really my frustration about crypto Twitter in general is that you are probably doing yourself a disservice if you keep following these type of people. Okay, I've focused on this quite a bit over the past couple years, really the past 12 months, that you need to hone in your system, ignore the noise. Okay, so anyway, we'll go back to weekly. We'll discuss more about that on the daily. So we have the drop down here. We're not even, you know, we're not even 20 hours in, and we already have the drop down. We have the election. A lot of people focus on the election, and we'll get to that also in later on after the analysis. But as far as the previous candle goes, we did close bullish. Okay, we had a, and the reason people are freaking out is because we actually went up. We went up super high. I mean, as far as like all time high, we got very very close. The all time high was 73,832 with some change, and the closing high was or the previous high from the last week was 73,621. So we were very 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 close. Really just almost 150 $200. So I think that's pretty key. Now we got the rejection, and I think this is a combination of two things. One, a lot of people were bearish to begin with. I think a lot of people were bearish because back here they thought that we were going to come back down to 43,000, which we may still do. I don't know. I don't think so. But that you always got to have those possibilities on the table. Anything is possible, but not everything is probable. So that's kind of how I view that. Um, but that being said, like I think a lot of people were sidelined. In fact, I know a lot of people were sidelined, and so we had this move up. A lot of people got discouraged, and then now that this retrace, a lot of people are excited again for this doom and gloom stuff. And this is very crazy to me. And I think about a lot of people look at The Big Short as a glorified movie, and it's not a movie to be glorified. But there is a part in the movie later on where the character that Brad Pitt plays criticizes the people that bet on the triple B's or whatever, and said you literally you're if you make money, and I don't know how he said this, but if you make money, you're betting on the economy to just blow up essentially. And that's um I mean, if it's going to do it anyway, like why not make money? So I understand that, but at the same time, like it's a really weird, like perma bears are really grim in a really like almost psychotic way, in my opinion. So anyway, I want to get away from that kind of wording. But a lot of people are getting excited here. A lot of people are saying "I told you so," and that's my favorite one is because like they've been saying "I told you so" for like the past 3 weeks, and they're like, "Well, I told you so. I told you so." Like, well, we're still up. That's why I bring up the past 30 days is because we are still up from when they were telling us we I told you so. Well, you haven't told me so. Um, you just haven't been available, and you're just now like anytime there's a bearish candle, you stick your nose into the market and you're just trying to show off. Okay, like that's not what's going on in the market, and I really don't even care because I'm going to try to make money on my own thing. Okay, you should too, but these people are going to try to um you know give you prestigitation on the markets when the markets are not saying this. Okay, again, we've been up for the past 30 days. We've been up since October 1st. Like we've literally, the bottom from September 9th is still in by a long shot. It's not even close. Okay, like we're not even, we're not even, I mean, we haven't closed yet, but I mean, we are technically under this level here from July, but we still have a lot of market to go here in the week. Okay, and if you are in favor of the election causing some of this, you know, downward move, then that could have an effect on that as well. We could easily retrace here. I've talked about wick. My wick theories is that, you know, most candles need to have 2 wicks. Most candles should have 2 wicks. I shouldn't say they have to, but they typically do. The strike rate on candles not having wicks on both sides is 5%. Okay, and so we do have one here, but keep in mind, like this one's very short, so we could easily rebound here towards the end of the week. My point is, I'm trying to save you from noise, trying to save you from the idea that you might be getting ahead of yourself. My main point is I don't want you to get lost in the game here. Okay, focus on what the charts are going to tell you. Okay, and the past couple days have been bearish. Okay, but I posted today. That doesn't mean the R&R is good. Doesn't mean the R&R is good. The way I see it is, we're still 7% from the highs. We're just having the one small consolidation before we move up, and that's how I see it. And so we'll see how that works. But as far as this goes, had the bullish candle, we rejected, we closed back inside. This is kind of like your swing high block area that I'm looking at, and we closed below the zone here. So this is no deviation. This isn't even a rejection. This is just resistance. That's all. That's all I see it as, resistance. And a couple of weeks ago we talked about this break above the zone. We are still above that. So we had a trend line break, and we're consolidating at resistance. And guess what? Consolidation at resistance is bullish. It is bullish. Okay. That is a textbook application of that type of range. So, and we are still there, okay? We could even reject as far as 65,725 and still be okay. So just be mindful of that. I think overall, the emphasis is to just not do anything, okay? Don't be so perma-bearish. Don't be perma-bullish either. I think perma-bulls tend to have more favorable outcomes with Bitcoin because everything goes up all the time, right? Things go up much more than they go down, on average, with the cycles and everything like that. Like, and if you disagree with me, you're absolutely wrong, because when I started, like, I thought I started late, and Bitcoin was $4,000. Okay, so you can argue about things go down. Sure, absolutely they go down, but I'm staring at a chart that says 67,600 per Bitcoin. Okay, and so it's gone up like 30x in the past 8 years. So of course things have gone up. You just don't think that they go up all the time. It's because you're too focused on the daily aspects of things, the low time frame, everything else, and you got what I have perceived as high quality traders that may still be. I'm not criticizing them as people or traders, but you got people right now on CT that are fooling you into thinking that things are going to go a different way because they want to prove themselves right. This is not about whether we are going to go down or not. Most of these people are telling us doom and gloom ideas. Okay, most of these people are perma bulls, or at least semi perma bulls, thinking that we're going to go to illogical price points at this time. They could certainly be right. I'm not going to say that they are right or wrong, but right now is not a prime focus, okay? And it's just like people making fun of Capo before. The reason people made fun of Capo, it wasn't because that we could go to 12,000. We certainly could have, but because it was illogical at the time to do so, and we ran away from that charts, okay? And now a lot of people are saying that we're going to go to 40,000, 30,000, and we may still do that. I'm not against that either, but that is a very illogical target to focus on. And so there is a difference between saying, okay, I believe that Bitcoin will go down to 40,000, and there's a difference between that and saying it's going now, and you need to get off your rear end and start shorting this, okay? Because once you start getting the people involved, first of all, that could end up being a long like a short squeeze, and then you guys are all stopped out, right? But second of all, like, you're kind of being misleading. Yes, it could go from 73,000, which it was, to 40,000, but that doesn't mean it will. And even if it does, doesn't mean that that's probably a good application. Okay. And so maybe that's just me as differently as a trader. If I think it's going to go down to 40,000, which it could, I think there's probably a 10% chance that it could. Um, Even if I think there's a 100% chance that it could, I'm not going to be so vocal about saying, well, you better get ready, you better prepare yourself, you better short all this, you better sell your house and all this other stuff. Like, that is dangerously close to financial advice, for one. Two, it's extremely egotistical. And there's a lot of good traders out there, and I think Donald was one of them. I personally don't think Donald's a good trader, but Donald was a very strong personality that pretty much got wrecked as far as like the consensus vibe. Like he was thought of as one of the top 10 people in CT probably, and I don't know if he is or he isn't. I don't follow him anymore, so I haven't kept track of it. But he was he really criticized a lot of people being negative towards him. Well, that's because he was a jerk the whole time. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Like you're being a jerk to people, and you're like, well, why are people being a jerk to me? Well, you got to look in the mirror. I'm sorry to say that, but most of these things are going to be as a result of personality or some other egotistical things. Like nobody wants to just, I mean, nobody wants to listen to someone that's just full of themselves. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. Okay, so I'll tone down a little bit here, but my point is people are merging their that into their bias or and creating, in what my opinion is, illogical trading structures. Okay, so you got to think about this very objectively, and I see this as, all right. We just had we had a move up. We had the first break above for pretty much the year, if you don't include this part. Okay, we had a rejection here. Doesn't say anything. We're still bullish at resistance here. There's no, we could look at order block structures here, but really it's just this is your new structure. Okay, we are breaking the structure currently, but like I said, today is the first day. We're 5 hours away from close, and so we still have plenty of time. Okay, if this breaks down, then we can talk about performance after that rejection. But this is still consolidation at resistance, which is very, very bullish in my from my analysis, not even my opinion. So on the weekly here, we have a very wide bearish consolidation. We have a 92% on the upside, 7% on the low side, so about 85%. And that is strong, to be honest with you. That's probably the one of the biggest consolidation structures you can get on a weekly time frame. So that is a concern. Okay, we had something very similar right here, from this standpoint, and so this was like 97 or so to here. Okay, and so you can see right here we dropped down, and this was basically the low. Okay, so this was a very good example because this is a consolidation structure that led to new highs, and it took maybe 2 months. So we could do that. Okay, and a lot of people think that we're just going to run up. A lot of people think Q4 performance means we're going to run up 1,000% in one day. That is absolutely not true. Okay, we just started November. So there's a very good chance that we may not have a huge run up till middle of December, like a good run up. Okay, things are looking good, but we might cool down for the rest of this month. That's completely within my time frame of expectation. Okay, but that is not bearish. That's what I'm trying to say. We could chop for the rest of the month. I think that's very plausible. I think it's very probable, but that is not bearish by any means. Okay, and so that's my focus. That's what I want you guys to listen to, is that people are feeding you potentially lies, because they want you to short to oblivion with this big short mentality, the doom and gloom mentality that the wrong person gets in office, hell's going to break loose, apocalypse is here, and that's mostly going to be not true. Okay, that's not going to be true. Um, so you just got to focus on the charts. And so we have this consolidation structure very similar to here. That was basically just a chop. And actually, this is actually, if this does occur, that is a excellent opportunity to trade the range. Okay, so your break was here. Even if you waited to the top, you would have longed at 48,337, which is very good. Okay, or spot buy, whatever you want to do. Okay, that's very good into now. I mean, even the current price action, that's 40%, so that's relatively decent for a spot position. So just keep that in mind. RSI is above 50, so I don't have any concerns with that. And that's another thing here. When we got to this point, RSI was basically above the 80% marker. We're way below that here. We're almost still at 50, okay? And so that's the thing. We're at the same position here, but the RSI is way lower, okay? And this is actually a good thing because we haven't even warmed up yet, okay? And we're still above the 50. So if we go below the 50, I think there will be some concerns. But right now we're doing just fine. This is looking very good to me. It really does. Now I acknowledge the interim chop slash slight downtrend. Okay. Yes, we have lost 7% in 6 days, but that's a little over 1% per day. That's actually lower than average. Okay, I'm just saying, because if we go up or down 2% per day, I don't even think you should be freaking out. Okay, a lot of people were freaking out on X the other day, and I was actually at a pizza place on lunch with my son, and like, why are people freaking out for? This is stupid. This is stupid. Okay, um, like right now, Bitcoin's down 1.3%. So what? This makes no sense in the frame of high time frames, okay? And you can accuse people like, well, you should be focused on a low time frame. Why? Why? Why should I? Okay, because that's where you lose the most money. That's where you get the most noise and confusion and headache and all these other things. Okay, you should have bought in lower. I'm just gonna say it based here. Like, you should have bought lower. You should have paid more attention to the charts instead of the news, instead of Russia and all this other stuff going on, all the Middle East stuff, all the election stuff, all this other things. Okay, that has distracted you from trying to get a good position, which was very freaking easy to do, and just try to be up a minimum of 40% that I just showed you. Okay, you could be up a minimum of 40 to 50% right now if you just focus on that range break and stop caring about any of this other stuff. Okay, that's if you have the capital to deploy. Some people don't. That's fine. Okay, but the reason you are probably missing out is because you're focused on other things distracting you that are just enabling you to miss out. Okay, so find good opportunities to hide. I will not take criticism for focusing on high time frames. This is why observations with those who exist. Okay, that is how I was able to get out at 58,000 on the previous cycle. That's how I was able to get in at less than 17,000 at this cycle, because I focus on high time frame opportunities. And the high time frame opportunity right now says we are focused on continuation very soon. Okay, and very soon is probably 2 months or less. That doesn't mean tomorrow. Okay, that could mean middle of December. Okay, so don't trick yourself into saying, well, Otsu said very soon, so that means tomorrow or this week. No, that could still mean the middle of December. That's still very soon for this time frame. So that is Bitcoin in a nutshell. That's how I'm viewing this. And again, I'm not against short-term opportunities here. It just doesn't seem the R&R is worth it to me. So here is the daily structure here. Going to focus on this, kind of get this out of the way for some clarity. And so now we have this zone structure here. This was your swing high order block for this zone. In fact, I'm actually going to just focus it on like so. This is your fib structure here. The 0 and 1 doesn't matter where that's placed. So we had your mid-level resistance here, had your rejection, follow through, deviation. So we're still here. Okay, so if this closes on the daily above 68,000, basically 100, we're going to be doing okay. So we're about $300 away from that. We still have plenty of opportunity. That would probably be like a close of like, was it? Yeah. So 0.2. So roughly 1%. So if we close within 1% for the day, I think that looks fine. Okay. Then I wouldn't even question that. If we do close below it, now we have this structure to look at. And so the middle of that would be roughly like 67,400. So we could close as low as 67,400 this week and still be just fine. Okay. Also, if you are an election effect person, I think there's logic. I think there's a logical conclusion to say that we would get a downtrend preemptively to prepare for the election, and we could bounce back up. I think that's possible as well. I'm personally not subscribed to that, but you may, and that would make sense to me if I was. So anyway, so that's that. Now the danger is if we do go below 66,674. If we go below that, then this is going to be a drop down continuation, and then we're probably going to hit this low at about 63,000. 150 or 200 basically. And so that would be my next level of concern. Now you're going to say, Otsu, well, you just told me everything's bullish. Why are you giving me bearish target? Because it's a high time frame. The weekly is a high time frame structure. Okay, we could come down here. I think that's completely possible. And again, that's only 7.5, 8% move. Okay, that's not a lot. You got to get it out of your head. You have to get it out of your head that 1%, 2% is a lot, because it's not. Okay, now the reason people think it is because they're high leverage, or they're focusing on some dog crap meme coin that they shouldn't have all their money in anyway. Okay, so you got to focus on that. And so, and the reason I'm so like animated about this is because I've seen this several times for the past 12 months, and most people have missed out on key opportunities because of it. Okay, I got into a coin in the past 30 days where I made 3,000%. And the reason I was able to make that much is because I was focused on the charts that matter. Okay, I wasn't focused on all the news BS or what's going on in the Middle East today. You might as well just flip a coin and make a decision, because that's how probable it is relative to the charts. Okay, so that's my focus on that. This is the downward target. Like, this is my extreme downward target. Now, if we break 62,000, okay, then we can start looking at 50s and 40s. Okay, that's how I see it. And no, I don't think that that's late. I think that that's still relatively early. Okay, so that's where, let's just say worst case scenario, that happens, right? And so you get that, you get your short option, you short here, you know, you have, because if this falls, this is not coming back, right? And you're going to get your mid structure here. And even if you try to get this a tight stop, or a looser stop here, you still got a 5R position. You double, triple, whatever you need to do for that. I personally don't think it's worth it, but it just depends. Okay, that's how I would see that. But we are so far away from that, right? There's plenty of things. We're still above the 50. The trend is still bullish here. Everything is looking fine to me. Okay, we are not in an area to be concerned about that right now. And yes, we could absolutely do that. We could absolutely go to 40. But, and that wasn't even 40, that was still like 51. But my point is, if you focus on that as a primary idea, you will miss out on bullish opportunities, which right now are much more probable, much more likely, based off of the trend, based off of all these other things. Okay, and so yes, anytime you could lose a trade, you could be wrong, things like that. But my point is, you got to focus on what's probable. The reason you guys are not making money is because you're not focusing on higher probability ideas. Okay, you're too damn focused on making a big short 2.0 instead of trying to make money. Okay, why are you here if you don't want to make money? That's what I'm saying. So right now, the high probabilities do not see us going that far down. That may change. If it does, I will update my analysis for that change. But right now, I'm going for the current market change, a trend, and that is bullish right now. So that is the daily aspect. I do think that we can bounce here. I am thinking that we can close here at 68, 100, and then we can bounce. Hopefully above at least 69, if not 70,000. I mean, and look at this. I mean, there's a $2,000 swing. Okay, we're talking about a $2,000 swing. This is nothing. Okay, this is the range we're focusing on. Again, I'm not even thinking anything bearish until we can break 66. If we do, I think it's unlikely, but we'll see where that goes. But looking for a bounce back up to 70, and then we can talk more about that. So that is Bitcoin. Okay, I know I'm a little frustrated about that or whatever, and so it is what it is. I think it is a big cause of concern, because my main focus is I really want you guys to make money. Okay, I really do. But in order for you to do that, you're going to have to ignore the noise. You're going to have to ignore the noise. So anyway, that is Bitcoin. Let's go to Ethereum. All right, so we are going to go to Ethereum. Took a small break too. So a lot of that, again, like I said, Bitcoin, that was going to be the longest section. I'm going to do more pure analysis because I think I covered some of the Perma-Bear stuff as well. We'll focus on it here towards the end, and the election stuff. But this is going to be, Ethereum, for Ethereum, Solana, Sui, DOGE, pure TA. So focusing on the weekly here. Had a bearish candle. Had this for about 2 weeks now. So this is a little disappointing, honestly. The main thing is you have this consolidation area right here. We need to hold this zone here. There is an idea that we could touch down back to about 2,200, get a divergence, and go back from there. I think that that's completely possible. But right now, a little sad because we're kind of going within the range. Ethereum has been a pretty big disappointment, really, for this whole cycle. I don't see that ending right now. Another thing is a lot of people are looking at ETH BTC. As a chart, I'm personally not involved. I am not invested in this at all. I personally do not believe Bitcoin pairs have really any relevance. I think they have very small relevance. Nobody trades Bitcoin pairs anymore. Like, and I'm not saying people don't look at Bitcoin pairs for analysis. I think that's absolutely true, but I do not see any. I mean, they could exist, but I personally have not seen any Bitcoin pairs that you can trade. Like, I am not aware of ETH BTC as a trading chart. Okay, yes, it is a chart that you could trade from, but it's not like Binance puts on ETH BTC and you can trade it. Okay, and if it does, then that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But um, the volume is not there. Like, you got to understand that this is not a pair that gets traded. This is why there you have this big scythe pattern here, is because this is a combination of comparing ETH price versus BTC price. This is not because people are actually trading ETH BTC on the BTC pair. Does that make sense? People are trading off of stablecoin pairs. Okay, that's why, and that's why you used to have a really nice tradable chart to this side. Now you just have a complete fade. Okay, because people are not trading it like this anymore, and also the performance with Ethereum, of course. But so I do want to make that distinction. That's a very key distinction in my opinion. So other than that, we need to stay above this zone. Your level at this zone for the mid structure is about 2365. Need to hold above that, and I think we're okay. We do have a bullish consolidation here, and it's been bearish this whole time. We're getting ready to cross bullish, but unfortunately, it's going to be at a 7 percentile, so it's going to be very low. So we could get if it goes too low, 7% or below, it becomes bullish by default, not because of a trend. It's not because it is because of a trend, but it's not because being bullish is trendy. It's because being bearish is just not trendy at all. Okay, so it's a fight for who's worse. Okay, and so bulls might win by default. Now that could be a good thing. I'm not saying that it can't, but traditionally on this, the lower on the spectrum, the weaker it is. And RSI is not reflecting that, of course. It's very weak as well. So that's pretty much it for Ethereum on the weekly. On the daily, not much you can work with here. Very chop scenario. We did look at this from from our Discord on a ascending triangle aspect here, and I'll just get rid of that for clarity's sake. And we focus on this for various things, but this actually is breaking down below. Unless it breaks above here pretty soon, this is going to break down and it's going to come back down to the lows here, and roughly right around here at about 2250, I should say. So very disappointing. It's not what I want to see. I thought that this would really work, but this is not working very good. But this needs to recover literally within the next 4.5 hours, which it could do. It's only down 1%. So if it closes bullish, I think that's very good. Now, we'll see where that goes. Bullish consolidation here. That does confirm that might bounce. That is a very good possibility. And so we'll see where that goes. I think it is likely that it's plausible. I think this could go either way with less than 1% now, with 4.5 hours to go. So that is Ethereum. A little bit disappointing overall. I don't think it's a big focus. The high time frame is not bullish. It's the only one of the 5 that isn't bullish, and so I think it is worth being ignored at this time. I've said this for quite some time. Bitcoin and Solana in particular have been much more of a focus this cycle than any other cycle with Ethereum. So we'll see. Is Ethereum dead? I'm not going to say that necessarily. I think Ethereum has, it's like I've said this before. It's like a dog chasing a car, and then the car stops. The dog's going to stop chasing the car. That's how I see that here. I think Ethereum has actually met its goal as its mission and vision, and so people focus on speculation. You make more money with speculation, right? And so and potential, right? And so the thing is, like, look at Nvidia and Tesla, for example, and Apple. Like, people always see these, well, if you would have invested 20 years ago with this much money, you would be a gazillionaire. And the reason is because that was where the potential was. Okay, you could make 100x on Apple or Nvidia or Tesla at one point. Now you probably can't. Okay, I mean, you probably could. It just depends. But the thing is, that was a potential, and I think the potential for Ethereum, I think it's met its goal. I think mission accomplished. But that's also why it's probably not performing as well. So that's Ethereum. Let's go to Solana. All right, so let's go to Solana. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put Solana costs, or Solana, I should say, SUI. I was looking at the wrong chart notes on my list. Solana, SUI, and Dogecoin together. So first of all, Solana on the weekly here had the drop down here. This is a little bit disappointing as well. And so we had this weekly breakout here at this zone, and so now that has been rejected here. Now this is kind of 50-50 because one, we didn't really reject above this zone, so this isn't like a deviation or nothing, but we did reject back into the zone, which is not something that I don't think is really favorable. I think that's probably the most bearish of the three, honestly, as far as that goes. Now we'll need to see where this goes. Sometimes this does come back down, and that'll be very disappointing if it does. I mean, a good high time bearish target would be right here at like 112. That would be where this breaker is that we haven't really. I mean, we did retest, but not as far as a candle goes. So that could be a concern. That's probably your most bearish idea here. We are still within this zone. And so if we can hold above this zone on the weekly, then I think we do have another chance at the markets. And so that's something that we can, kind of grasp at that point. Now, that being said, the weekly has still been bearish here. And so nothing is really out of the ordinary with that. Like we have a very slight bullish consolidation really ever since August 5th. And so as you can see, we're above that zone. And so if we look at that from a price perspective here, see if I can match this up again. Even with the close on that zone, we're still above about 12.5% almost. So nothing's really going out of plan with this. And so we will probably hit the bullish trend on here. And so I think we will get one more chance to kind of let this go up. We'll just see how it goes. RSI is still above 50. Everything looks good here as far as that goes. Another thing too is we really have this whole structure right here, which should provide some pretty major protection from the 136 to the downside to about 148 or even just 150 on the upside. Actually, it's probably a little bit lower, about 147. So 148 is probably fine. So that range is going to be protected because this was a very contentious zone. We had some contention here again, so this should hold. You had the retest support here. So I think that will be okay. Again, this doesn't have, first of all, this doesn't have to really retest, but this could be considered a retest as well. And I think, let me go on a 2-week, that didn't retest here on the candle. And so we'll see where that goes. So overall, I think this looks just fine. We had the rejection from that weekly breakout, disappointing, but I've seen fake outs before. This isn't a deviation. Now, again, this very similar to Bitcoin. I'm gonna get rid of this here. You have the drop down here, and now you had this structure, right? But you also have this, and so this is the point where this could become a deviation from this zone. So the low end of that is about 146, and so that's also why I'm thinking like 148 is a good protection zone, because if we go below 146, then the chances to go to 112 are very high. Because this would be kind of just a fake out, not a deviation necessarily, but a fake out. And so I would be cautious about that. We still have room for that to work with, so just keep that in mind. On the daily, that's kind of how you see we're at that zone like so. And getting rid of this, adding something back, you're kind of in this level right here. And so we're kind of in the middle of that. I would like to see us go back to 160 here. I think that's only 45 cents away, so that's very easy to do. We do have a bearish trend cross here on the ARIN, and a high one about 62%. Not super high, but high enough to where it can have an effect. So we need to watch out for that. Watch out for that 148 zone. RSI has failed here. So let's go ahead and go to SUI. It's down about 5% here. Now, this is one where we had this on the weekly. This is the weekly recovery, so that's looking pretty good. We're dropping down here. And I do want to really emphasize, this is only one day in the markets, okay? We still have 6 more days to go. And so anything can happen. We can come back above, especially with tomorrow being a very interesting day. And so that is possible. But we did reclaim this zone. So until this closes, then I see no reason why that we should ignore that. I think this is a really good area of continuation. And so we also have this trend line here, focusing on that trend continuation. We had the rejection, not rejection, I should say resistance. We rejected from that resistance. Now we reclaim this zone from the swing high order block, so things look good from that perspective. Wide bearish consolidation, but we're already halfway through it, so that could be the end of it. So we'll see how that goes on the daily. Had that recovery here, got a pretty good wick on this, and so we'll see where this goes with 4.5 hours left. But it could really go down as low as 179 and just be fine. So we'll see what that looks like. Bullish consolidation. Um, I think everything looks okay here. Really, this big area is going to be an area of concern. Um, uh, uh, from your high time frame perspective on the daily, at least, which doesn't make sense, but um, a range break of either side is going to be what you're looking at. So that's going to be SUI. Let's go ahead and go to Dogecoin, which is up 5%. And so um, very interesting in this regard. I've discussed that this is a play that I am looking at. It's about almost 12R, about 11.7%, and this is going up pretty good. Now, again, I do want, just as much as I say this on the bear side, I want to say this on the bull side. This is only one day in the markets, so be cautious of that. But I think overall, like, this is on the pattern from what we've looked at for the past month or two. And I think this is an interesting example. I don't know, maybe this is Elon doing something. I don't know. But this is a good emphasis to say, like, don't get distracted, okay? Because, um, you know, Dogecoin from basically the middle of September is 67%. And then really for the past, 4 candles, I need to change this here, but is up 43%. So things are looking pretty good. If you haven't made money from Dogecoin, it's because you're probably focused on other things. You're probably focused on too much noise or activity, and it's just like that peanut the squirrel coin. Like, I haven't gotten into that because it was by the time I was looking at it, it already had ran up, right? And I'm not going to go into something that everybody's already involved in. It's like it's already at 38 million. It went down to 38 million from 100 million or more. So that's, and it may go up. It certainly will, but just need to understand that, right? So Dogecoin, it's going up now that people have stopped focusing on it as much, and so that's something to look forward to. Now on the weekly, have a very wide bearish consolidation. Now I also want to keep in mind this: when we start going parabolic, consolidations will actually be part of the parabolic run, and that's the one exception where the consolidations don't make sense. And the way that you can navigate that is if it goes below the 80 percentile or not. And so we haven't gotten there yet. That could be if Aaron goes below 80%, you could say that the consolidation run goes into effect. You also got to understand, like, it was 100%. Now this week it's at 92%, and so it takes 2 weeks of confirmation to get that consolidation. So this is not a confirmed consolidation. This is just a plausible consolidation. Sorry, a little confusing, saying a lot of words at the same time, but this is looking okay for now. So overall, not too bad. RSI is doing just fine. Going to the daily here, we had this retest structure here at about 15 cents. I focus on premium. In our Apex premium, I said that 14.7 was a target, which is right here in the middle. That was where we got yesterday. I know somebody that actually did get into that. And so right now, they're above about 8%, 8.3, so they're doing pretty good. So we'll see how this goes on the recovery. Small consolidation on the bull side, or bear side, I should say. Not too concerned about that one. RSI is doing pretty good above that. So those are the weeklies for Solana, SUI, and Dogecoin. And I did kind of mention the whole perma bull, perma bear kind of thing. And so I'll make some thoughts about the whole Perma-Bias and the election stuff, and then we can do a summary of the video. So overall, I do want to talk about the election thing, and I'll kind of make this somewhat brief, maybe 5 minutes or less per thing, so we'll see. But we have the election coming up tomorrow. I personally will be voting in less than 24 hours from now. A lot of people are concerned about this. You guys know who's on the ballot, things like that, so I won't really discuss that part. But but my main thing is like one side, people are really focused on this. Like one side believes that they're very pro crypto, which and I can understand this, right? They have announced that they, this particular um, red side, I should say, is focused on like freeing Ross, for example. I think that that's something that's very beneficial to do. They were at the Nashville conference, other things like that, and so there's a lot of points of focus, and mainly there's been a lot of pro crypto rhetoric as well in their speeches, and so I understand where that could be bullish, and to be honest with you, I do think it could be bullish. I think especially in the short term, I think that could be bullish, and especially if they actually commit to doing what they're doing. I do think that I personally would like to see Bitcoin as an actual currency of the United States, and whether it will or will not, it doesn't affect me because I've been very polarized on you know political based rhetoric with cryptocurrency. Like I did not get into crypto to be accepted. I did not. Like if I did things to be accepted, I would have gotten in crypto to begin with. Okay, um, I was accused, and this was 8 years ago, accused of being a criminal, accused of doing all sorts of things that I've never done and would never think about doing. Even among my friends and peers in my real life that knew about me being in crypto told me I needed to stop, like as if it was some sort of drug addiction. And I have proven them wrong, okay, in that sense. And so, but my point is, I don't care about the right or wrong. I'm used to being on the quote unquote wrong side. And so I don't need government approval necessarily, in this sense, to tell me what is right or wrong. Okay. And so the other opposing side, of course, is the blue side that has been known to be anti crypto, that have tried to create regulations to stifle that have partnered with the SEC and things like that to call everything in their mama security and going through all this stuff. So I think there is, you know, now more than ever, I hate using that phrase, but there is more now than ever a very clear divide on which one is more favorably crypto than versus the other one. And that's been very conflicting to a lot of people because a lot of people have falsely believed that this is a very blue oriented topic that in the same way like Silicon Valley, I think a lot of people want to compare Web 3 to Web 2. And Web 2 is a very Silicon Valley blue state kind of ecosystem, and crypto was born not even on red or green, not red or blue, but like libertarian steampunk kind of anonymous, like being anonymous. Okay, and that's the thing. Like they want to force crypto as a blue category when it's really not. It's for everybody. Like whether you are red or blue or green or whatever party you belong to, or whether you don't, because we have lots of people that aren't even in the United States. So you need to be mindful of that. Like my wife isn't even American, okay, and she has Bitcoin, so I got you have those things going on, right? And so my main thing is I don't want to be forced into a peg either way. I do think the red side will be, of course, pro crypto at first. Blue will be anti-crypto at first, and I think the charts can reflect that. I think that might be one exception where that's probably um, part that could be part of it. But I also think long term that that's not going to matter either way. Okay, and so I think a better way to look at this is, first of all, don't long or short because somebody wins or doesn't. I think it's the dumbest thing. But long term, you need to understand where that goes. And so the best way to understand this is that Bitcoin got successful without political things happening, and it's going to continue to be successful without it. Okay, and so that's where you have to look at it, not how the election is going to affect Bitcoin, but how Bitcoin is going to affect the election and the government. Not election interference or anything like that, but like the long term effects. Because if the United States does become more pro crypto, then you're gonna that will be bullish in the sense, but it's gonna be bullish because we're already here, and now the average American will support that, right? And so if it goes the other way, well then that's going to, and so my point is that would positively, that's not going to necessarily positively affect Bitcoin. It will, but it'll positively, Bitcoin will positively affect the country. That's what I mean by that. So the inverse is also going to be true for the blue side. If we start to clamp down on regulations, they told us in the last 6 months they don't want to. I believe that's a big lie, because now they're starting to promise these things, and that's just, they're tone deaf about that. And so, but what I see is if they go back to the regulations, that's going to hurt the country in that sense, because not even because people will buy Bitcoin or be rebellious. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the innovation. Like, this is a very key innovation, especially with AI coming up. I think cryptocurrencies have a very, I personally think it's its own paradigm. Okay, it's its own category. Okay, I mean, Bitcoin is a commodity, but I think Bitcoin should have its own demographic. Like, it's its own new class. It's this new asset class. Okay, and we all know this, right? But it needs to reflect that. Okay, but and that just shows you, um, like it has a lot of room to grow still, even at 67,083. And so I think it would be detrimental to the financial markets if it doesn't get accepted, as whatever, even as currency. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on the on how that would affect it. I think there will be some volatility, absolutely, but I don't have any. I think trading that is just going to be, just another way to lose money. So focus on the long term. Bitcoin's gonna be bullish either way, so don't worry. I don't be concerned about that, in my opinion. So, and then last but certainly not least, we're gonna talk about Perma-Bias. I talked about this, much more frustratingly in the Bitcoin section of this video. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and check that out. I mentioned that, but my whole point, my overarching point about Perma-Bias is that you guys just gotta stop doing it. Both sides, okay? Um, Being a perma bull or perma bear, the whole idea of being perma bull is just being bullish no matter what, even if things look like are very damaging. Perma bear, is the opposite, always doom and gloom. And so I can tell you, this is my third cycle, right? So the first cycle, I was so pissed at perma bear or perma bulls. A lot of perma bulls were like super bullish. I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of money actually because I followed perma bulls, and they say buy this, it's going to go up, you're going to make life changing money, and I made life changing money, just the wrong direction, right? And so the next cycle, I'm like, all right, I understand all that, they're pieces of garbage. I'm going to focus on, make sure I'm being more bearish, and that's where I fell victim to perma bears and like the bear PTSD, and I didn't make as much money as I could have because I was not open to suggestions. I was not open to parabolic runs or like things, like people making 30, 50, 100x, even 1,000x some people make. And so there's that idea, right? So, and now that I'm in the third cycle, one, I'm more level headed by default, but two, I listen to myself more than I don't listen to any other trader other than my own. Okay. I do infer ideas from other people, but I make sure it goes through me. I route it through myself. I make sure I'm 1,000% responsible for my trades and for my own ideas. I disagree that you should have a bias. Some people, some very good traders out there believe that you will have a bias. I disagree. You should not have a bias. You should, by all means, if you think things are looking bullish, I want you to, like if you think things are bullish, which I think they are right now, try to find ways to look at why they're bearish. Okay, try to do the opposite of what you think and see if what makes sense. Okay, and whatever makes the most sense, that's what you do. Okay, it's not a bias. You're not looking, you know, you're not looking for things to happen because you want them to happen. You're looking at things to happen based off what the charts are telling you, and that's not bias in any way. That's just analysis. That's just analysis. Like, why can't technical analysis just be technical analysis? Okay, and so that's my thing. And so right now, I say this to say that there are a lot of perma bulls out. I say there's less perma bulls than there should be, or not that there should be, but there's less than bears. But there's perma bulls out there that are just super bullish, and I think that there's good reason to be I think there's good reason to be optimistic. I think we're in an optimism stage, and so I think that that lends itself to being more positive. But that's not a perma bull attitude necessarily. There are going to be perma bulls, but I think we are in an optimism stage. We're in a hope slash optimism stage. Okay, and I think that I think that positivity gets is more welcoming in that sense. Now there's more people that are perma bears right now, and I think that that's very dangerous. I think both, like I said, I think both extremes are dangerous, but I think right now that doesn't make sense to me. We are 7% from the highs. We don't really have much weakness here. I mean we had the rejection, but I explained that in the Bitcoin video. There's TA side doesn't favor hyper bearish scenarios. Um, Fundamentals don't cover perma bear scenarios right now. There's a lot of things like that, and I've said this before. Other people have said this better than me, but there's limited downside to being a perma bear as well. So I think both of them are dangerous. Obviously, I think there's way too many perma bears out there right now that are causing people to be stuck on the sidelines. But my main focus is just to be reflective of the market. So look and see if you see something bullish, try to find something bearish in response to that. Like, well, is this really bullish? And find out why. Use critical thinking. Okay, it's not as critical as you think. It's not as critical because it's hard. It's critical because it matters, right? So understand that either extreme can be bad. Focus on the middle, and don't focus on the middle as like you're always going to change your mind every second or every day. Look at the high time perspective. Get your idea from the high time frame. Look at the whatever day time frame you want to focus on, and then make that analysis based off the high time frame and the current time frame. So that's a way to do it. That's how I do it. It's worked for me. That's why I have these weekly videos. Is because I focus on the weekly, focus on the daily. Then I have closing videos where I focus on the daily and the 4 hour. Okay. So that's how I structure that. I'm not interested in shorting if the market is long unless there's a weakness. There's no weakness right now currently on this time frame, and so that kind of bears to that. So no pun intended. So that's my idea about perma bias. Don't fall victim to perma bias. Don't even fall victim to bias in general. Just trade the charts, ignore the noise, and try to make money because that's what you're here for. Who cares if you're right or wrong? Who cares if you're a bull or a bear? Make your money the way that you see it, and that you have an edge in that case. So anyway, that's that. Let's go ahead and go to the summary. So, long video, so I apologize, but overall, Bitcoin, in that perspective, we had this rejection here, sort of a rejection. I mean, it is a rejection, but I've mentioned overall, I think, especially on maybe the 3 week, you can kind of see how this looks like. But this is basically just a consolidation at resistance. I still think this is bullish. I still think that we could go up from there, but we'll see where that goes. I think drop down is if we go below 66,000 on the weekly, we're going to have an idea of going down to about 62, 63. Until then, I think continuation is a more logical conclusion to that. I'm going on to Ethereum, a little bit weakness here. I would like to see this recover. If not, we're going to go down to about 2,200. Just emphasizes that ETH is very weak compared to Bitcoin. Really, the rest of the markets not interested in Ethereum at all. It's not strong in any sense. It doesn't have any bullish trends. If this was a regular crap coin, it would be delisted. I'm just saying, and so I want to have. I want Ethereum to succeed, but it has not shown me that it can. And so we'll see where that goes. That could change. I mentioned how it could in the Ethereum section, but right now doesn't look that good. Solana, a little disappointing. Actually broke down here on this triangle area here. It got the rejection here. I mean, you could kind of form this like so. I think that that's fine. I think that that's a little outside the bounds. I may adjust that here the next week, but I think that we're focusing on the rejection because that's where I drew it from the last week. So, got the rejection here, looking to hold anywhere between the 160 all the way down to like 180 or 148. 148 is probably the area that we need to focus on the most. Don't want to go below that. I think this looks still okay. Again, focusing on the weekly. Weekly has never been bullish anyway. We're getting ready to get that bullish trend or cross, I should say. So if we do that, it might improve, but that's kind of where Solana is. Sui had this reclaim structure here. This is a big zone I'm looking at on the daily, but we had the build up here on the weekly. Needs to hold this by the end of the week. And if it does, good continuation. If not, obviously it won't. But that looks pretty good. If we can get, again, there's only one day in the markets. This should improve. If it does, Sui's looking pretty good. And then Doge going up about 5.4% today. Again, first day, so keep that in mind. This is the outlook I'm looking at. I'm looking at about 56 cents. Honestly, my high target is like 150, like $1.50. But this is looking pretty good overall. And a good idea to keep in mind that you should just focus on the long term, because you had a lot of instances where you could have lost money. If you just focus on high time frame, buy it, forget it. That's where you're making money right now. And so don't get distracted by the lower time frame. And that was the whole point of the whole Perma-Bias, is like people get too focused, like they inject their ideas into the market instead of having the market be, I guess, injected, so to speak, into them. And as far as, not into them, that sounds bad, but like they're have the charts be the reason why you trade instead of what you want the markets to do. So anyway, that's the video. Let me know what you think. Again, I know it's a long video. That was intentional for this video. Let me know what you think. Go ahead and check out Apex if you haven't. I'll see you next time.